the 154th running of the Sexton Cup.
I think it's 153.
153rd
Yeah.
running.
We're
Flag
off.
is down. We're off.
What a great scene.
Great scene.
Both
Great
crews
skiing.
taking off under the bridge.
Yep. And a quick start. Yale maybe inching out a seat, 2 seats, but this is,
Vlad-
I'd say, over the last 3 years, that's as close a start as we've seen of the first 10 strokes.
Vlad did a great job of putting that white, green, and red buoy right under his port riggers. That could have really fouled an oar.
That was a little lobster pot that you saw there? Or,
yeah, did a great job. And Yale now has got about 2.5, 3 seats.
Yeah, deck, I'd say, solid deck. And crews are still in their starting sequence. There's Yale at 38. And now just coming down, 36. And Harvard, 1 minute in, still at 38. Right. So they're holding high a little longer. That's a tricky thing. You don't want to hold, this is a long race. You don't want to go into too much oxygen debt.
Yeah, no, you want to row this a little lower. Even though it's a tailwind and you're all hyped up for the race, Yale's doing what they want to do.
Yep. Yale
going low. Just Leonard Jenkins really backing up Sholto quite well. He's the 7th seed in the white hat. And he's right on the bow man of Harvard. But Sholto, very experienced. He and his captain, Paul, are the only men to win the sprints 4 times, the varsity event at the sprints 4 years in a row.
Yeah, that's an extraordinary achievement. And
Yeah.
that may be a unique achievement because it's only the last time it happened, freshmen didn't row.
Right, exactly.
But
I'm not sure that's going to happen too many more times unless we win 4 more in a row, which would make everybody happy out in Derby and New Haven. And Sholto now, the stroke of the Yale crew, is on the Harvard bow man.
Yep. And Harvard is now down at 35 to Yale's 34.5, so they're more or less matching each other. And I was watching yesterday the Yale crew warm up, Andy, and watched them a little bit during the IRA just on the video. And this guy, no question, has a great rhythm in his stroke, but his upper body posture, sort of the neck over, head down is unusual. And I guess you'd say as a coach, hey, that's the way he rows.
Yeah,
we're going to work on more important problems.
Exactly. He's driving the hull with the right body parts, and don't be fooled is what I think Coach Gladstone would tell you. This guy's a champion. Harvard's doing a nice job of hanging around. Sholto has moved out. Vlad is the coxswain for Yale is almost at the Harvard
like he's
bow
at
ball.
the bow ball. So it's been a steady move.
They're very patient at the catch. Yale is very patient, loading things correctly, and taking advantage of every stroke. Driven through, as Steve would say. I've heard him say that many times.
Yep.
And they're doing it now. And they've just broken open water. I'm at the about 3:25 mark.
Yep, I'd say a little more than a length, and we are about 3/4 mile into this. So that's a healthy lead. And Harvard, if they're going to be in this game, if they're going to come back, they're going to have to turn this around in short order. They can't do it with cadence. They got to do it with length.
Yeah, they just have to move the boat.
David Ambler, the Harvard 7-man, just took a long look over, just check out where are they, what do we have to do, see what they can do.
As you would expect in a 4-mile race, there's bursts of speed where one crew takes advantage of the other, in this case Yale, and then they match speeds for a little while. They're not trying to take a breather, but that happens, and then there's another push, as you're seeing from Yale right now.
Yep.
And Harvard holds them for a while, and then Yale makes a push, and away they go.
Yeah, you're totally right, but it's about base speed, and if Yale can get 2-3 inches every stroke, that's ultimately going to win this race, because there are 250 strokes in this race.
Well, they're through the marker now at about 4:40.
Yep.
And we're about 6 seconds back or so.
Yep, so we're seeing 4:40 for that mile, which is quite a bit slower than what we saw.
Yeah,
and that is because the tide, it's not because these crews are slower.
Right.
This is because the tide is becoming or is slack. And so these guys are rowing in still water, no help from Mother Nature, and that's good because we've eliminated the fact that tide doesn't row through the lanes evenly.
It's one stroke at a time for the stroke. The captain is Paul. Sholto's the stroke. Just one at a time. It's just great rowing.
Yep, it's nice rhythm. Nice, the whole boat's doing it together. A lot of pressure on the face of the blade. Clean releases.
We talked a little bit earlier about the story of Cole Tilden, the 6-man, who was in the 3V last year, and this should fire up everybody who was in the 3V this year. Like, he just turned it on. And, you know, he's all legs and arms, but man, he uses it really well. He just pushes and pushes for days, as they say. And I know once Steve got him, Steve also thinks he's a great stroke as well, and he would often, in mixed boats, Cole would often stroke some of the mixed eights that Yale would have. But he just backs up Sholto and does a great job right in front of Charlie Elwes and behind Leonard.
It's a big, powerful stern four, there's no doubt about it. And when he came from the 3V, when was that apparent? You're around the boathouse. Would that have been apparent by the end of the fall season?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. They do a lot of long, low stuff, and when you're long and push it long, that just attracts the eye.
But he'd cut his teeth and sort of made his mark on the guys in the fall. And so when he went at the tanks, went on the ergs, he knew he had a better position.
Well, Yale started, I'd say it's about a length and a half lead now.
I would
Yale.
too. I'd say this was as we've been chattering away, this has been a dominant move, and right where Harvard had to move and make a move to bring themselves into the race is when Yale, with just a better base speed, has moved. And so here we are breaking through a line 7:08 as we cross mile and a half for Yale, and Harvard 7:15 or 7:16. So we're at the 7 or 8. By the eye, I'd say we're even more than that. But
these guys, 3 of these guys in here, Sholto Carnegie, Charlie Elwes, and Tom Digby, they rode for Great Britain in the U-23 straight 4 last year. They got a silver medal at the U-23 championships. And the other guy that rode in there, Captain Rob Hearn from the class of 2017. So it was an all-Yale GB straight 4. And they almost got everything. They beat everybody except one crew to get the silver last year. So it's the highest of pedigrees here. It really is an international crew of, young international caliber.
Yeah, there was a time when we would sit and watch these races and point out people who are on the junior team. Now, most of these guys are U23, and many of them are U23 medalists.
Yep. Paul Jacot, the captain, he got a bronze in 2014 in the Cox 4 at the U23 World Championships.
Yeah.
And that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
He's been rowing at a high level. So it's remarkable here as we come under the shadow here of Mammocoke Hill, marking about 2 miles to go. We got about 2.25 miles to go, I would say, at this point.
Got it.
I'm sure a lot of these guys know each other too from that international circuit.
The GBs certainly do, because in the Harvard 8, you've got the stern pair is the stern pair of the GB U23 8, and the 2-man is the stroke of the U23 double. So
coming into halfway now.
Yep.
You still see the shoulders of the Yale Cox and Vlad just still urging his crew on, but probably tempered with the knowledge that you got 2 miles to go. 9:18 or 17 through the 2 mile mark.
Yeah, 9:18 through, and then here's Harvard coming through at 9:25 or 6. So then that last segment, not much change. Still sort of 7 to 8 seconds between the crews. And last year, you might recall, Andy, it was here that Harvard made a big push. They weren't quite so far down, maybe, but they made a big push, and we probably got to a deck plus down on Yale at the 2.5 mile mark. And I think there were a lot of people viewing that said, okay, this is the move that does it. And then Yale responded and took a big move and sort of shut them down, and that was all she wrote.
Well, the race is a different complexion this year. I mean, Yale raised their game from their national championship last year. And
and we talked last year about the fact they had come back from, both crews had come back from Sacramento. So essentially they had 2 days less rest. And so the pattern, wasn't quite as professional. But this is, it's a very, very dominant performance so far. It's good for Harvard to be staying in it. This is a good Harvard crew. Yeah.
We're just letting the camera, can't see quite where he's pointing right now, but as he pans up to the Yale crew, you can see just the patience they have on the drive, and just they're doing it one stroke at a time. They often talk about, well, we're just doing what we do in practice. That's all we have to do. And I see them go up and down the river. It looks the same every time, and it looks darn fast.
Yep.
Charlie, a little look out at his blade, a little check. And these guys are very focused.
I'm going to check that again. I think Yale has moved themselves down to 32. Solid 32. And that's a great cadence to row. And Harvard at 35. And I'm sure you do this with your crews, but the people who don't watch as much rowing, and it's amazing how fast you can go at sub-race pace at 32.
Yep.
And
just being patient.
When I was at Harvard, our pre-race row before sprints, before big races, was go out and go as hard as we can at 30 for 2K. And that's not modern training. That was those days. But it was amazing how fast. We were always amazed that we could break 6 minutes rowing 6 bits slower.
Well, that's because you're rowing longer.
Yeah.
And, Coach Gladstone would say, length, of course. Well, we discussed that most of these guys are not going to Henley. They're breaking up and going to their various teams. But this also marks one of the last competitions for Yale of the 2018 season. And this presents our outgoing athletic director, Tom Beckett, with another victory over Harvard, which I'm sure he's delighted with. Another national championship. We've had 2 this spring with the men's lacrosse team.
Congratulations on your men's lacrosse team. Fantastic effort.
Yeah, just a great way for Tom Beckett to go out and leave this place that he's left better.
And to show that somewhere in this program, very good program Harvard puts out, they have the rivalry, Yale versus Harvard, in the last academic year. And there were years, 10 years ago, where this was incredibly lopsided. Here it's virtually the same. Harvard 21, Yale 18, 1 tie. And baseball, they played 3 times. That's really unfair, so Harvard gets 3 cheap wins. But if you broke it down to by team, you'd find that these universities are pretty well matched now. And Yale's hockey team, former national champions, fantastic. Their men's basketball is big league now.
Well, they say he's Yale's #1 fan. I think he'll still be that in his retirement, and it's a great way to send him out here with a possible victory here in the Sexton Cup. It's not over yet, but right now Yale has a dominant lead.
So Yale just going through the 3 mile mark now. I got them at 3:51, and these are completely unofficial because the angles are tricky to watch from the side. And Harvard at 4:03. So they've opened up to a healthy lead of 12 seconds.
Well, if you count the fact that Yale was able to finish the 2016 race and Harvard was not, and count that as a Yale victory, now I'm getting a lot of negative reaction here in the launch. I don't like that. Let's admit it. But we can arm wrestle for that later. But this is 3 Yale wins.
This is 3 Yale wins in a row, and 4 very fast Yale crews in a row, evidenced by Eastern sprints and everything else.
So it's good to see, I have to say. It's good to see.
Now we're seeing just a little timing becoming a little frayed in the Harvard boat. Body's not moving quite as in sync. It's tough to row at this distance, at that cadence, that long. And Harvard at 36, which is a tough 4-mile pace. And Yale at 31 and a half.
Yeah, just rowing very long. I'm sounding very
well. It's a
boring.
It's a
saying
simple
the same
sport.
thing, but
yeah.
it really is a delight to watch. Right.
And it is great to watch. It's great to watch if you know what's involved with it. And I think, just because of the cadence disparity, it looks like Yale just went up a tick. Harvard may have closed the gap a little, but. Yep, Yale's up at 33 now. I did not deceive me, and they've got plenty of gas in the tank. So we are now approaching the stakes, half-mile stakes. Yale on the eastern shore, going between the blue flag and the cone in 6:15, 6:16. And Harvard between the cone and the red flag. Just going through now at 6:24, so they've closed the gap a little. Still a big gap.
Well, these guys have less than half a mile before they pass into legendary status, and 3 of these guys won't be back, but everybody else will be.
Yeah, well, it's a program that's being built to last. And then Harvard says goodbye to 4 seniors that have been a core of a great program, and 4 guys who were high school guys in New England, and know each other quite well. Belmont Hill, 2 of them, and BC High, and Belmont Hill and BC High are sparring partners all spring long. They have a great friendly rivalry. Ultimately, Belmont Hill rows in 4s, BC High in 8s, so it's easy for them to work out together.
Well, that's high school, and this is college rowing. These guys are about to take off, and we wish every guy in the Yale crew and the Harvard crew that they go on to fantastic senior and U23 careers and represent their countries with honor and dignity and speed. And we're going to track their progress however far it takes them.
Yeah. And so we're coming to very flat water. I mean, you're not going to ever have a race. This race is really in conditions better than this, maybe equally good, but you can see from the camera this is really idyllic. Harvard now at 35, 36, Yale at 32 plus.
And they're going to get a huge burst of energy. You talked about the goo earlier, giving your daughter a little burst of energy right before the start. Well, when we pass the rock, when Yale passes the rock, there's no sweeter feeling right now for these guys, the 9 men in this boat. They're loving it.
Yep.
They're loving it. They know it.
Since the advent of big video screens at Gales Ferry, that rock is less populated.
Just trying to go back for the party, I think. Just trying to get ready. So it's going to be under 19 minutes, but not much.
Harvard now at 37. Yale's popped it right up.
There's no need for the record this year.
Yale at 34.
1850.
1850.
To 1858. So about 8 seconds.
8 seconds. 8 seconds.
You can see Cole wiped out 6 days after winning a national championship. He just goes 4 miles. Dominates the ancient rival. And has to lie down.
Well, it was
great stuff.
Excellent race, and Yale, the stronger crew, of course. But Harvard did a great job staying in the race, didn't throw in the towel.
Yes, they did.
And closed it by about 4 seconds in the last mile or so. So
it's a near impossible task.
Yeah, it's so great job, great water, great sight here actually with the 2 crews here resting in their yellow shells.
What a scene. I'm
Yep.
letting the camera. What can you say? What a legendary season.
So great race, great regatta. Yale takes the Sexton Cut, takes the point trophy.
Yes.
And
Let's not forget the points trophy is named after a Yale and a Harvard gentleman, Hoyt Pease and Robert Chappelle Jr. That trophy goes to the winner of 2 out of 3, and today that was Yale taking the JV and the varsity races, with Harvard taking the London Cup and the 3V race.